Live from Michiana, this is ABC 57 News at 5:30.
Disabusing disabilities. It's a catchphrase you probably haven't heard before, but it's something that you will hear a lot as my co-anchor Colleen Bormann introduces you to a Michiana doctor using that phrase as part of his platform and part of his mission to change lives, starting with his own. It's a story you will only see on ABC 57 News. Colleen, he is serving as an advocate for people with disabilities, and he has quite the story of his own to share.
Yeah, Brian, when you hear his story, it sounds more like the plot of a movie. A story so inspiring, ABC 57 News traveled across the country to tell it. And here's why. To some, Fermi Okanlami was the perfect student. He was the perfect athlete. He grew up in Michiana and had dreams at a very early age of becoming a doctor. He was in his third year of orthopedic surgery residency at Yale when something happened, an accident that changed the course of his life. But as I'm about to show you, it's giving him a new course, and he is right on track, thanks in part to many people and organizations in this community.
All right.
At first glance, it looks and sounds like a typical day at the park for Fermi Okanlami and his son, Alex.
My best therapy is playing with this guy.
And that's exactly how Fermi wants it to be.
Soon you'll be able to climb up the big rock wall.
I don't want him to look at his dad and think that his dad can't do something.
Oh, Daddy's so big.
Alex knows something is different with his dad, but as Fermi taught him, different doesn't mean bad.
Even though you need a wheelchair or crutches or a walker, it doesn't make any difference. I think that we all have our abilities and inabilities.
Life lessons taught on the playground, now being used as a platform dedicated to the belief that disability does not mean inability.
My goal is to really shed light on, right now, disability and people with limited mobility or abilities to show that they are just as able as others.
Fermi is using his story to break down stereotypes and inspire hope.
It sounds cliche, but that's what I want. It's a story of immigrants coming to the country. It's a story of resilience. It's a story of access and ability and things that are inaccessible and disability and injury and faith.
Born in Nigeria in 1988, Fermi, his older sister, and his parents, both physicians, ultimately moved to the Michiana area. At a young age, Fermi excelled in the classroom and in sports. And according to his mother, it was his personality that made him stand out in the crowd.
Even as a child, he was very compassionate. He cared about other people. He also had a unique ability to interact with people of all ages.
His drive landed him at Stanford University, where he served as senior captain of the track team. He then attended medical school at the University of Michigan and was off to Yale for his residency in orthopedic surgery. But that all changed in a single instant.
On July 4th, 2013, Fermi had his accident. That day started like any other normal day. I was at work. It was a holiday weekend.
A lot of the residents at Yale were there having a 4th of July gathering, and I jumped into a pool. I didn't do a back flip or a triple forward flip or anything. There was no diving board, but I hit either the ground or the side or someone's leg. I can't be entirely sure, but immediately I was unable to move my legs.
Fermi broke his neck. He was paralyzed from the neck down.
What was happening in my mind was just next steps. Okay, stabilize my C-spine, get me onto the stretcher, get me to the hospital, this step, and then my friend called my mom and my dad, and I told them not to worry. I actually said, don't come out, I'll be fine. And they're like, you must be kidding me. What do you mean, don't come out?
Mrs. Okanlami, there's been an accident. We're on the way to the hospital, and we'll call you when we get to the hospital. But then he ended the call by saying, but he can move his hands. And as a physician, and definitely as an intensive care physician, that meant a whole lot more to me than everything else that he said preceding that.
I was almost blissfully ignorant of the severity of things at the time, even though I knew the severity of things. I knew that I wasn't able to move anything below my chest.
It was clear Fermi had a long and difficult road ahead of him.
At the very beginning, it was very stressful for us just watching him, just picturing this college athlete who would fly through the air and do all kinds of flips. and needed to be fed and needed to be turned and needed to be helped out of bed and everywhere. And it was very difficult for us as parents to watch.
But not once did doctors tell him that he will never walk again.
The thing for me is that I've got an interesting intersection of science and faith, such that even if they had said to me that I would never walk again, I know that there's so much we don't know about spinal cord injury that I wasn't going to sort of let that be what I was thinking about. I wasn't going to let that limit what I hoped my recovery would be, because I think that the Lord can work miracles.
The long road to recovery led Fermi back to South Bend.
There was some hope, and it was quite encouraging, but it was clear that this was a marathon and not a sprint. And so we all had to pace ourselves for what was going to be a long journey. He had turned on this thing in him that could not be crushed, which had risen above the accident in a way that made it just a little easier for all of us to bear. Because none of us could fall apart in front of him. He was holding it up, and he was the one whose life had changed significantly.
But for Fermi, it was the community holding him up, pushing him to his limit and motivating him to go for the gold. Coming up, the unique journey Fermi took to reach his goal of walking unassisted.
All the way up. Yep, nice. From the first day that he was there, he really pushed himself. No limits.
And the community that supported him.
That's you, Addison. That's you, Addison.
Every step of the way.
It was a dramatic change from the day he left here to the day he came back.
A step towards gold continues tonight. After the accident, Fermi moved back to South Bend. It allowed him to try something new, graduating with a master's degree from Notre Dame's Esteem program. In fact, his family is now offering a fellowship for that program, allowing one physician per year to attend the Esteem program tuition-free. South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg appointed him to serve on the St. Joseph County Board of Health. He was finding his place in this community and quickly became an advocate for people with disabilities. And that's why he knew he needed to leave.
Look alive, GP.
Life didn't slow down once Fermi Okanlami moved back to South Bend.
All right, let's go.
He ran the River City Rollers basketball team and earned a master's degree in entrepreneurship at Notre Dame. Yeah! All while focusing his energy on rehab.
Since my return, the community, the people that live in it, the different organizations have been just extremely influential and supportive of me, all the way from rehab facilities to car companies. Literally
lifting him up, pushing him, and allowing him to get back to what he originally set out to do, help patients.
So, if there's anybody that can do it, he's the person who can, and we wanted to make it happen. So, you know, he's been very open, very honest about what his capabilities are and what he can and can't do, and any adjustments that we need to make. They were able to find room to allow me to start off cycle, and I started in January of 2015 in the residency program, and it has been nothing but a godsend ever since.
Dr. Fermi Okanlami is set to graduate from the residency program at Memorial Hospital at the end of this year.
So tell me, Ronnie, what's going on with this year?
And while things in his professional life are back on track,
Take a listen, okay?
it started taking a toll on his body. Residents work long hours, which meant Fermi spent long hours in his chair and less time at a rehab.
We knew it was going to be hard, and honestly, he slipped back. He wasn't able to. He spent more time at work and didn't get to the gym as much as he probably should have. And you know, he came in one day and said, "You know, I've realized that I'm backing up."
Fermi knew he needed to do something drastic.
And just like it is for anybody, if you don't use it, you lose it. And for me, if I lose it, that's losing the ability to stand up tall and to walk.
So after extensive research and a little faith, Fermi took a leave from the hospital and took a trip out west. And so did we, traveling to Los Angeles to follow Fermi through one of the most challenging moments of his recovery.
Come on, Fermi.
It's called Project Walk. This is where Fermi spent 6 weeks. The goal? to not only get stronger, but to ultimately walk unassisted. And for a dream this big, Fermi reverted back to his mentality as a top athlete.
My theme for my time out here was going for the gold. It's a little pun on the fact that I used to run track, and the first time I did my rehab, I had red shoes that lots of people recognized and wanted me to wear every time I worked out. So I thought, all right, I've got to step it up this time and I'll go for the gold.
A theme that brought him to Project Walk, an activity-based therapy designed to help people learn how to reboot, control, and coordinate their nervous system.
Trying to find out what type of functional movements are going to help that person regain control and coordination of their nervous system. We act as basically their brain, their central nervous system. Oftentimes people with paralysis not only lose or find it difficult to move, but sensation is lost too, and that's something that we don't think about. So they lose the ability to feel or even know where that limb is in space and time.
Finish it out. It's a lot of weight. You got it.
Jeff Lefkowitz quickly learned his newest client, the doctor with the golden shoes, had a heart of gold as well.
From the first day that he was there, he really pushed himself. No limits, pushed himself. When it was time to be tired, he really wanted to try to keep going for some more.
Going.
The thing about him is he's got a purpose that's much greater than just his recovery.
Yeah. Awesome. Keep going.
A purpose and a platform to inspire others with disabilities to always go for the gold.
That's beautiful.
Excellent. Woo! Yeah. That was pretty.
9 steps taken unassisted, a goal reached.
I can't explain any more than that your heart wells up. You know, sometimes you want to cry, sometimes you do cry, right? Sometimes we do cry, but it's tremendous. And for somebody like Fermi, you know, he's quite the individual.
No trophy or medal needed here. For Fermi, it's about the bigger picture, using his accomplishments in California to show others that disability does not mean inability.
It was a dramatic change from the day he left here to the day he came back, and to see him up and walking.
Inspirational to people who are young and old alike, from all walks of life. That type of phenomenon makes you realize that there was a master plan behind all of this. Even though this may not have been the way we would have written the script of our lives, there was a master plan, and he's still right on track.
Life lessons for anyone facing their own hurdle. Lessons that start at the playground with his son.
What I'm trying to show him is that yes, you can try your best because you want to always do your best, but that people are different. And there'll be some times where you won't be the fastest, and that's okay. And there'll be times where you're not going to be the strongest, and that's okay too.
It was so incredible to be able to witness that. Now, his journey is not over yet, but as you just saw, he is one step closer. So what's next for him? Well, Fermi accepted a position at the University of Michigan where he'll be providing primary care for individuals with disabilities starting next year. There, he'll serve as a mentor for underrepresented minorities and students with disabilities while teaching and conducting research as a faculty member in several departments. Now, I talk a lot about his journey, but I didn't get to focus on his work as an advocate and a mentor. And coming up Friday on ABC 57 News at 5:30, you're going to meet a local high school senior from Niles. He's pictured behind me. He recently had a spinal cord injury. He was able to go to LA as well, participate in Project Walk. His story is incredible as well. You don't want to miss this Friday at 5:30.
And this was such an incredible story as well. I'm just curious really what your biggest takeaway was.
I think the biggest takeaway is that, you know, his whole theme is going for the gold, and that really relates to anyone. And so if you have a hurdle, go for it. Go for the gold. So an incredible message, and I was honored I could share his story.
Yeah, and it's so great too to see his son look up to him as well. And this
Cute
story,
little
so many
guy.
people are going to want to share this as well. You'll be able to share it right now. It is posted on our website, abc57.com.
You know, Brian, initially, I went out to California to follow Fermi Okanlami's journey to learn how to walk again. But while there, I got to meet Caden Baxter. A little over 6 months ago, an injury left him in a wheelchair, and he met Fermi through their basketball league. After seeing a Facebook post one day from Fermi about Project Walk, his family decided they needed to take that journey as well.
What's up, guys? How you doing? Look at these guys, so serious. They don't even stop playing to say hello.
The game of basketball is pretty intense for the River City Rollers.
We're back and forth on the court, and it's a lot harder than it looks.
But on this night, the team took a timeout to catch up with their leader, Okanlami.
It was an amazing sort of activity-based rehab program, and I spent 6 weeks there.
Stories shared, meant to inspire and motivate, and a life experience that Fermi gets to share with one of his teammates.
This trip really hasn't been a vacation. It's been come to the gym, go back to the hotel, sleep, eat, come to the gym the next day, and that's all we've seen.
This is what Caden Baxter's spring break looked like.
I like walking with the ninja sticks, but probably my favorite one would be pulling the sled. I pulled 320 pounds yesterday.
It's called Project Walk, an activity-based recovery center in Los Angeles.
You are strong today, brother.
They're pushing to the limit. They're doing great things in South Bend also, but here he's getting a lot more of the weight training and a little more risk.
The Niles New Tech sophomore doesn't mind the hard work. As he learned from his mentor, that's what it will take to reach his goal, to walk by the start of school this fall.
Excellent.
It would mark nearly 1 year since his life changed in an instant.
We dropped him off at a friend's house before a homecoming game, and about 45 minutes after we dropped him off, he called and told me that he was laying on his back in a cornfield.
I was riding a four-wheeler, and I drove off of a 5-foot drop-off and rolled a four-wheeler over myself and broke my back.
He was paralyzed from the waist down and that he would need me to meet him at the hospital. It was terrifying. You know, my husband and I both kind of reacted differently. We switched roles, and I just tried to stay very strong for him so that he wasn't scared any more than he already was.
Caden was airlifted to Indianapolis, where his family waited for the diagnosis.
They thought my spinal cord was severed, so I was flown out to Indianapolis where I would have the best rehab, according to them, for a complete injury. And when I got out there and they opened me up, they found that my spinal cord was just compressed severely. So it decompressed and I gained feeling to the knee initially, and now I have a lot more sensation and movement.
As scary as this image looks, it could have been much worse. The family thankful for some encouraging news.
I really haven't worried since. I didn't worry during the surgery. I haven't worried about any of this because I knew that God was behind him.
Even more powerful was Caden's attitude. As he walked me through the most terrifying moments of his life, he was smiling.
There's tons of people that are in harder situations than I am that are still very positive, and that shows me that there's no reason for me to be upset about any of this because I still have recovery and I'm still alive.
Still alive and not wasting a single moment. Even though life knocked him down, Caden refuses to stay down.
It's like watching him walk all over again for the first time. It's amazing. So I'm very proud of him. He's a hard worker and does it all with a smile.
A smile that was maybe a little bigger when he returned home and returned to his team. Just in time to watch his therapy partner, his coach, his mentor walk into practice.
That was awesome. I was super excited for him. I know that's one of his goals, is to be able to do that long term, and to see him be able to start meeting his goal was amazing. Very exciting for me and him.